utilize extradition to rid Colombia of drug traffickers like Pablo Escobar.
Escobar and his gang decided that Galan was an obstacle, that he shouldn't be president of Colombia.
August 18th, 1989. Galan prepares to deliver a campaign speech in Sochoa, southwest of Bogota.
Pablo Escobar targeted him and had him killed. Pablo was responsible for assassinating 3 of the 5 candidates for president. The man who took Galan's place was his campaign manager, a man named Cesar Gaviria.
It was a very, very difficult period. Escobar was trying to kill me. If he had the possibility of killing me, he would not doubt a second.
November 27th, 1989. Presidential candidate Gaviria is scheduled to fly Avianca Airlines Flight 1803 from Bogota to Cali. One of Pablo Escobar's lieutenants is instructed to board the plane with a suitcase he is told contains a listening device. Unbeknownst to Escobar's man, the suitcase is in fact a bomb. November 27th, 1989. In an attempt to assassinate Colombian presidential candidate Cesar Gaviria, cocaine boss Pablo Escobar tricks one of his own lieutenants into carrying what he believes is a listening device aboard the candidate's plane from Bogota to Cali. Avianca Flight 1803 goes down in the mountains outside Bogota. 110 people are killed. There are no survivors.
Gaviria, as it happens, was not on the plane. But at the point where Pablo bombed an airplane, he became what the United States considers a clear and present danger.
There were 2 American citizens killed on that plane. So under the long-arm statutes, we could prosecute him for the Avianca plane.
With cocaine continuing to flow across the borders, American drug policy changes from intercepting drug shipments to taking down cartel leaders.
It became very evident that we had to target them more specifically. As their power grew, it became evident that they had to be dealt with.
When George Bush was elected president in 1988, he changed our country's policy against drugs to targeting the drug kingpins, men like Pablo Escobar.
And for the drug kingpins, the death penalty.
November 2nd, 1989. President Bush's legal counsel drafts a reinterpretation of the long-standing executive order prohibiting the assassination of foreign nationals.
The new interpretation of the prohibition said that if the President of the United States determined that someone was a threat to national security or to the lives of American citizens, that that person could become a target for assassination. Our forces could go out and not just try to find them and arrest them, but actually kill them.
America's premier counterterrorism team prepares for a potential mission.
Delta Force is the Army's top-secret counterterrorism unit that specializes in finding people and going after them, and is considered to be one of the best in the world at doing this.
Our existence is still not recognized by the Department of Defense. Regardless of whether or not we exist, the unit has some highly motivated, select individuals that specialize in these kinds of operations.
As Delta Force stands by, a new group of covert soldiers has already entered Colombia.
The CIA had obviously always had a presence in Colombia, but after the Avianca airliner bombing, the Colombian government invited the United States to help them go after Pablo Escobar.
The U.S. dispatches a secret surveillance unit, codenamed CentraSpike.
CentraSpike has certain technologies that's highly sensitive. I'm not going to go into what they have or don't have.
CentraSpike is another top-secret Army unit that consists mostly of language experts and technicians who specialize in finding people by eavesdropping on their electronic communications and using radio telemetry to target their location.
Flying under the cover of an aviation technician team, CentraSpike begins eavesdropping, and triangulating phone conversations.
One of the things that CentraSpike did was prepare a kind of organizational map. For instance, they would soon know who were the 10 people who Pablo Escobar most frequently spoke to on the phone, and then who were the 10 people that each of those 10 most frequently spoke to. You can form a fairly sophisticated map of the inner workings of an organization.
The nucleus of the Medellin cartel was Rodriguez Gacha, a.k.a. El Mexicano, the Ochoa brothers, Fabio, Jorge Luis, Juan David, and Pablo Escobar as the leader. So it was a conglomerate. They would get together, they would borrow each other's airstrips, airplanes, borrow each other's labs. They were doing loads of coke into Mexico, then Mexico would bring it to the United States.
With CentraSpike flying and listening overhead, the Colombians place a team in Medellin with the dangerous task of acting on CentraSpike intelligence.
They created their own special unit of elite police and soldiers called the Bloque de Búsqueda, or the Search Block, which existed specifically to go after men like Pablo Escobar.
Commanding the search block would be the most dangerous job in the most dangerous country on earth.
It was a job that nobody wanted, because whoever was going to be in charge of this group going after Escobar would become immediately a target of Escobar's. The man who commanded the search block was Colonel Hugo Martinez.
Martinez accepts on the condition that he will be periodically rotated out of the hot seat.
It was understood that there was to be a change in personnel every 15 days. However, there was never a change in personnel. I remained on duty the entire time.
Hugo Aguilar is selected as Colonel Martinez's right hand.
We were chasing after the most dangerous criminal organization in the world, backed by more than 1,000 men in uniform from a combination of various Colombian armed forces.
As soon as the search block was formed, Pablo Escobar announced that he was going to kill 60 members of the search block in the first month. And then he proceeded to make good on his word.
He says he will destroy the search block within 8 days. In those 8 days, he placed 2 car bombs, which killed approximately 25 police officers.
In the first weeks of the search block's efforts, scores of the men were killed.
There were times when we would feel powerless before such a criminal.
Though the Colombian government considers disbanding the search block, Colonel Martinez asks for and receives more men and continues targeting Escobar's organization.
The first of the drug traffickers that CentraSpike targeted and found was Rodriguez Gacha. When the CentraSpike located Gacha on a hilltop finca just outside of Bogota, they turned over this information to the Colombian government.
Gacha and 3 of his associates are gunned down in a battle with Colombian forces.
Gacha went down fighting, shooting at the police.
Escobar would soon lose more vital assets.
CentraSpike enabled the search block to target a lot of the key people right around Pablo Escobar.
They started arresting people, they started killing people.
The search block began killing or arresting the top people around Pablo, including his longtime associate and his cousin, Gustavo.
And Gustavo Gaviria was the brains behind the Medellin cartel.
Escobar remains unaware that CentraSpike is listening in from above.
CentraSpike got to be so effective that Pablo came to suspect that he had an informer in his inner circle. So he began torturing and killing people around him who he suspected of collaborating with the authorities. What he didn't realize was that the information was being provided by the secret American unit, CentraSpike.
Escobar was not the only one who operated by violence.
All of these hitmen and associates of Escobar were killed in what the police would euphemistically call shootouts with the police.